All right, here we are at lesson 13 for our coding lessons. Again, don't forget to answer your questions on your Google Doc as you are working through. So let's go ahead and start. We're now working on other forms of input. So go ahead and read the overview. Take a look at some of these new codes we're going to be using. So instead of just key down, we have key went down, key went up, mouse did move, mouse down, mouse went down, mouse went up. So that sounds similar with the keys. Sprite visible, and if else statement, which hopefully you're already a little familiar with because we've been using those. Okay, number 2, another prediction. So read through the following program, pay special attention to the if else, here it is, block on line 10. After discussing or thinking about the following questions with your partner, write down your predictions and run the code to see what it does. So predict what you think is going to happen here. And then after you run it, let me know what happened when you pressed the space bar, what was going on when you didn't, or when the space bar was not being pressed. Okay, and then when you got that, go ahead and move on to part 3, which is a video. So again, make sure you watch the video. It's going to talk a little bit more about the if-else statements. And then we're also going to have a question. What's an example of when you would need an if-else statement? So you can use the example there, come up with your own example. So when do we need those if-else statements? And continue on with part 4. We're already moving through this one. All right, the else clause is useful when you want the program to do one thing when your condition is true and a different thing when your condition is false. When we're talking about those true and false, the else makes it what happens when it is false. So click run to see the swarm of bees created for you. So we've already been created, they're already buzzing around. Okay, and a flower on the left side of the screen. Make the swarm of bees appear when the mouse is near the flower on the left side of the screen and disappear when the mouse is away from the flower on the right side of the screen. Look at the example on the right. So you can see left, you see the bees, right, you don't see the bees. You can see where the mouse is. Add an if-else statement after the code that updates the position of the bees. Okay. So let's get down here. Let's find our control. Let's add an if-else. There we go. Okay. That in the input of the if boolean to check if the X position of the mouse is on the side of the screen with the flower. Okay, so that's where we're going to need some math. So that is, we're doing side to side. Again, that is our X. So we want to see if X is, this side is smaller. So let's find our less than. And you can see the bees are reflective of where your mouse is, okay? So the input of the Boolean check to see if the X position of the mouse, not the sprite, is on the side of the screen with the flower. So let's go back to world since we're dealing with mouse and we just need X. So world mouse X is less than, and let's just stick it right down the middle at 200. So now we're checking to see if the number is less than 200, we're talking about the area where the flower is, okay? Set the visible property of each bee inside both the if and the else statement appropriately to make the bees only show near the flower. So that's under sprite, we want sprite visible. So if sprite visible, if it's less than 200, do we want it to be visible? So if it's less than 200, it's going to be on the flower. Is that when we want it to be visible? Yes. So we want that to be true. Okay. And don't forget to rename. And we have 3 different bees there. We have a B1, a B2, and B3. So we'll start with B1. Okay. And then I'm going to need another visible in the else statement. So B1 still. Do we want it to be visible if it's greater than 200? And the answer is no, so that's false. So I'm going to type in false. So if I reset, when I'm on the right side, you should see 3 bees. When I'm on the left side, you should see 2 bees. Okay, so you're going to continue that with all 3 bees to make them all work. So you're going to need sprite visible 6 times in here. 3 for the if, 3 for the height. So whenever you're dealing with visible, either it's true or it's false. So B2, true, B3, true, B1 false, we already have B2 false, B3. Okay, so if I reset and run, now I have no B's on the right side because that's greater than 200. Less than 200 is when we see the B's. So that's what we're looking for there. Okay, moving on. Number 5, we already have an assessment piece for this part or this lesson. So reverse the gears. The gears are back. Remember, good friends, the gears, there they are. They're already spin in one direction when you press the space bar. There they go. Now you want them to spin in the other direction when the space bar isn't pressed. So similar to what we just did with the bees, is you're gonna have to add that else statement. Just click on that plus sign to make your if to an if else. You don't have to delete the code and re-put it in, okay? So if I go in this way when the key is pressed, the space bar is pressed, what are they gonna do? They need to go in the opposite direction. So if your blue gear rotation is negative, down here it's going to have to be positive. All right, so again, this is an assessment, so I'm going to leave this one more up to you. Okay, looking at part 6, this is a review of how the if-else statements work. So go ahead if you need a little bit more explanation of how those work. All right, so you can take a look at that, and let's move on to part 7. Right, mouse X and Y. So that's how the bee was able to follow the mouse earlier. One of the simplest ways is to take input is just to make a sprite follow the user's mouse position. You can get the X and Y location of the mouse using world.mouse and world.mouse Y, X and Y. This follows the pattern you learned with sprite's properties. World is the name of the object, mouse X and mouse Y are the names of the properties. So just like you would have sprite.x, sprite.y, that's the same thing. All right, you're gonna make a bee sprite follow the mouse around the game area. So wherever your mouse goes, your bee should follow. The bee image is already loaded in the animation tab for you. There he is, it's called bee. Create a bee sprite that draws in the center of the window. All right, so let's go ahead and add our sprite. Create our sprite, let's name it bee so we know what we're talking about. 200, 200 is the middle. And then we need to set the animation. Again, call it bee. Change the animation. What's it gonna look like? That bee that we have in there, okay? Inside the draw loop, update the position of the sprite to the position of the mouse. So set the X position of the sprite to the value of world mouse. So we want to change the property of the sprite X, which is now BX, to the world mouse X. So drag that over, okay? And set the Y position to the sprite value of the world mouse. So remember, just that one equals sign gets the value. So now the BX is going to get the value of whatever the mouse X is. So let's go back. This time we want Y. Name it B. Go back to our world and mouse. All right. If I run it, I have a blank screen. So try and take a moment. What am I missing? Why am I not seeing anything? Okay. Do you know why? All right, first of all, I need to draw my sprite. I haven't seen it yet, so let's reset it. Let's run it. Okay, there's my bee. It is following my mouse. I'm still forgetting one thing. I have to put another layer of a background. So don't forget, you always need to have that background whenever you are using a draw loop. So let's get that background up the top. Let's call it a light blue would work. Let's reset and run again. And there is our bee now following wherever the mouse goes. Okay, and that can be important when you're playing games sometimes or just other kinds of coding going on.